Hello, my name's Chloe. I'm 37 years old. I just experienced a profound loss and I wanted to share my experience with anyone who's willing to listen. It all started back when I was 16 years old. It was then that my mother was diagnosed with cancer. The doctors only caught her cancer when it was too aggressive for treatment. She suffered for 2 long years before finally succumbing to her illness. It was one of the worst moments of my life. My dad and I never fully recovered from that after. I was already 18, so I moved out pretty soon after Mom passed away to go to college. My dad and I barely spoke, but I did make sure to call him every once in a while. We both dealt with our grief in different ways, at least for the first year after Mom's passing away. However, as the years passed, my relationship with my dad began to start healing as well. I realized sometime in my last year of college that he was the only parent I had alive, and I shouldn't take my relationship for granted. I began visiting and calling him more often, and pretty soon we were closer than ever. I remember thinking at some point that Dad had been single for around 6 years at that point. I didn't like him staying at home all alone, so I began slowly nudging him to consider entering the dating scene. He would almost always either change the topic when I brought it up, or he would nicely tell me that he wasn't interested. I dropped it and accepted that maybe Dad didn't want to see anyone after Mom, but that changed when I got a call from him one day. "Hey Dad, how's it going?" Everything's going pretty well. What about you, honey?" "Well, I'm always exhausted from working, but it's all good otherwise." "That's good to hear. I kind of have some news that I need to share with you." "Oh, what is it? I hope it's good news." "It's wonderful news for me, but I'm worried about how you'll take it." "Well, there's only one way for you to find out. Tell me about it." "Okay, well, 3 years ago, I met a woman and we started dating." 3 years? Why didn't you tell me anything?" "I didn't say anything because I didn't know how you'd react, and as the years went on, I guess I just kept chickening out. Anyway, I proposed to her this past weekend and she said yes." "Wait, you got engaged?" "Yes, and I didn't think it was right to not tell you. Now, I understand if you're angry." "Dad, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you." "You are?" "Of course. I've been trying to get you to go on dates for the past year now, and I see why you never listened to me." "I'm so glad that you're okay with this, given that, I'm sure Mom would be happy to see you happy, Dad. So tell me more about my new soon-to-be stepmom." Turned out that my soon-to-be stepmother had a daughter of her own. Dad had met her through work, and just like him, she was also struggling to get through the loss of her husband. They got along because of their common grief, and one thing led to another, and they fell in love. I was happy for my dad, and I was genuinely excited to meet my stepmom. Dad invited me over to dinner so I could meet my stepmom and her daughter, Bella. Dinner was nice, and my stepmom seemed lovely. Bella, however, was a little aggressive. She refused to speak to me or even acknowledge that I was there. I was a little put off by that, but Dad explained to me later on that Bella was still upset that her mom was getting married and would take some time to get used to it. I didn't mind anyway because I was pretty well settled at that point. I no longer lived with Dad and I had my job, so how Bella treated me didn't matter to me. I only interacted with Bella a handful of times, and one of them was the wedding. At the wedding, I was tasked with keeping an eye on her because she tried her best to sabotage it and cause a scene. Needless to say, she did not like me after that. The other person I interacted with at Dad's wedding was Nana Clara, Bella's grandmother on her late dad's side. Nana was a sweet woman who was happy to talk to whoever tried to engage her in conversation. I spent a little while talking to her, and that was the first time we formally interacted with each other. After the wedding, Dad and Stepmom would host family dinners once a month where all close family members were invited. It was then that I got introduced to more of my stepmom's family. I got along well with them, but I never really had a proper relationship with them outside of those family dinners. Anyways, Tragedy struck one day when Nana's husband passed away. She was inconsolable, especially after having lost her son just a few years before that. Her depression and grief caused her health to deteriorate pretty quickly, and she needed someone to look after her. Initially, Nana's brother opted to look after her, but eventually decided that she was too much work, so he wanted someone else to look after her. By this time, Bella had also moved out of the house and had a job of her own. My dad and stepmom had sold the house that they had and downsized to an apartment. They had no place for Nana. Nana was willing to go to an old age home and my dad was willing to pay for it, but Bella stepped in and begged Nana to let her take care of her. Nana reluctantly agreed, and so she stayed with Bella for the next 2 years. Again, I met them at family gatherings and such, but I never actually asked how things were going. I was technically in no way related to Nana at all, so I didn't think it was my place to say or ask anything. But from what I could see, they seemed happy. I was wrong. Exactly 2 years after Bella asked to take care of Nana, she got tired of her. She began asking other family members if they'd be willing to take Nana in, but none of them wanted to. My dad and stepmom had moved all the way to Europe by this time because they wanted to enjoy their years of retirement, so they were completely out of the question for help. Once again, I didn't say anything because I didn't think it was my place to. But Bella didn't mind because she showed up at my place with Nana one day out of the blue. "Oh, hi Bella and Clara, what brings you here?" "Look, I don't have much time, but I need you to do me a favor." Sure, what is it?" "I've been stuck taking care of my grandmother. It's been hell." "Bella, she's right here. How can you say something like that?" "Oh, please, she knows how much of a hell she's raised. You know how I never wanted kids, right?" "Yes, but your grandmother is not a child." "Well, she sure acts like one. There's no time for myself in the day, and she's constantly crying about something or the other." "Well, she's old and sick. It's expected of her." "Whatever. I'm tired of her." "Who cares? You took up the responsibility of taking care of her. If I remember correctly, you insisted on taking care of her." "Of course I did. Have you seen her wealth? I figured that if I took good care of her, she'd leave me her inheritance. She's refused to show me her will, so I didn't even know if I was on it. Taking care of her was the best way to ensure that I'd at least get something." "Bella, that's really disgusting. Do you not love her at all?" "I do, but there's only so much that I can love her. She's a pain in the neck and I want nothing more to do with her." "So you took care of her for the past 2 years for nothing?" "Oh no, I know she changed up her will again in those years. Since then, I've limited all her contacts with lawyers, so I know that she won't change it." "You're sick. I hope you know that." "I don't care. I'll be back to claim my inheritance when this crone's time is up." "Bella!" "Chloe, it's okay. Let her go. Could you just let me in for a few hours so I can arrange a place for me to stay?" "Absolutely not, Nana. You'll stay with me. You may not be my blood relation, but you're still family." "Thank you so much, Chloe." I was beyond upset at what Bella did. How could she be so disrespectful? Nana looked upset, but she tried her best to smile at me. I gently ushered her into my home. I lived in a pretty small apartment, and I didn't have much. I will admit that I was pretty worried about how I'd take care of the both of us, but I figured that things would just work themselves out. I gave Nana the spare room I had and helped her settle in, and for the next week or so Nana didn't say a word. I let her be because I felt like she would need her time processing what had just happened. Eventually, I did ask her what she was feeling. "Do you want to talk about what you're feeling, Nana?" "Yeah. I'm sorry I've been such a mess. Things have just been going downhill after my husband died. I couldn't cope with the loss, both physically and mentally. I've become a burden on everyone in my family. I don't know what to do with myself." "Hey, you're not a burden. You've been dealt the worst of cards and you're trying your best to cope, and that's okay. It may be okay to you, but you weren't the one abandoned by your family. I may not have been abandoned, but I can tell you that whoever abandoned you, whether it be Bella or anyone else before her, were the ones that were the problem. As your family, they should have taken care of you, or at the very least made arrangements to make sure you were taken care of. I guess I can see your point, but I'm still a burden to you now. Nana, you are not a burden. I'm glad that I'm able to take care of you. At least this way I know that you're in good hands. But you should be living your own life. I barely even got to know you. You were all grown up and out of the house when my daughter married your dad. You shouldn't be responsible for someone who's virtually a stranger. Well, I regret not getting to know you earlier, but now we have all the time in the world to get to know each other fully. And just because I'm taking care of you, it doesn't mean that I'm not living my life. All right, but if you need me to leave at any moment, do tell me, but give me some time beforehand so I can make my own arrangements. Sure, but that won't happen, and I can promise you that it's not because I want any of your money. I just want to make sure that you live the rest of your life to the best. Oh, thanks a lot, sweetie. But speaking of inheritance, I need to get in touch with my lawyer. Didn't Bella say that she got in between you and your lawyer? Yeah, well, she got in between only one of them. When you live long enough and have witnessed enough family fights around inheritance, you learn to work your way around it happening in your own family. Oh, wow. Okay. Is there any way for me to help you out? I will need you to run around a little and make some calls. I'll also need you to be okay with my lawyers coming over to your place so I can talk to them. Yes, of course. Anything you want. Just let me know a little in advance so I can work around my work schedules. Of course, sweetie. Thank you so much again. I was upset that people treated Nana so badly, that she considered herself to be a burden, so I worked hard after that to make sure that she stopped feeling that way. The last thing I wanted her to feel was that. Even on days that I was really tired and wanted nothing more than to just sleep, I stayed by her side and did everything she asked of me. There were numerous visits to the hospital and her reports were showing progress. I was happy to see her feeling better. She looked happier too, and I was glad to see that. The first year with her was a time for her to heal and get back to who she was. This year, no one from her family called to ask if she was all right. I was upset, but Nana always told me not to think about it. The next year, since Nana was a lot better than before, I began taking Nana out of the house. Earlier, at best, I'd take her on a short drive and we'd come back home. I would take her to the park and some cafes, or even pet cafes. She loved dogs. She would light up every time we went out, and seeing her so happy made me feel good. Around the end of her second year with me, she asked me to contact her lawyers. Once every week since then, I was running around doing some paperwork or the other, and I had lawyers at my place. I never knew what was happening in their meetings, and I never asked once again because I didn't think it was my place to know. After Nana stopped asking me to call her lawyers over, she finally revealed to me what had been going on. Sweetie, I need to talk to you about something. Yes, Nana. So you know how I've been meeting up with my lawyers a lot recently? Yes, of course I do. I'm the one arranging the meetings. Yes, I've been rewriting my will. The initial will that Bella is holding hostage included a division of assets for everyone in the family, including you. Me? Why me? We barely knew each other back then. Yes, I know, but you were still a part of my family. It was nothing big, just a small amount. Anyway, I've had a year to think about it, and I know that I shouldn't have originally willed you that much. Oh? You've been so kind and caring. You've shown me more love than my own family has in years, even before my husband's death. I don't want you to tell anyone as yet, but I'm leaving everything I have to you. What? Nana, you can't do that. Why can't I? Because you have other family like your siblings and your son and even Bella. Bella deserves something at least for having taken care of you for some time. Neither she nor my son actually wanted me there with them. They never ceased to talk about them, getting my inheritance. They never properly cared for me or even treated me like I was human. You've been the only one to do that. But Nana, don't you think they deserve at least something? You can give me the majority of your assets. I just don't want them to speak ill of you after you are not here anymore. Chloe, they spoke ill of me when I was alive. I think I'll be okay with them doing that even when I'm long gone. All right, if you say so. Thank you so much, Nana. I don't know how I could show you how grateful I am. I know how I want you to call Bella over sometime next week. I want to reveal my new will to her. Is this you taking revenge? Oh yes, nothing will be sweeter than watching her face fall as she realizes what she did to herself. Remind me to never get on your bad side, but all right, I'll drop her a text. I was genuinely surprised that Nana wanted to leave me everything she owned. I had never wanted any of her wealth. I was just happy to have someone in the house with me, someone to talk to and someone who would listen to me. I will be honest and say that the inheritance would help me out a lot, but I didn't care about that. I texted Bella and told her that Nana wanted to meet her. It took her 2 weeks to respond and tell me that she'd be there the coming weekend. I was genuinely surprised that she even responded. I was kind of nervous about how Bella would react when Nana told her what became of her will. When Bella showed up that weekend, she walked into my home as if she owned it. She barely greeted either me or Nana. She sat herself on my couch and demanded a glass of water. I gave her a glass of water and I sat on the couch. The three of us were silent for a minute and I could feel the awkward tension just rising with every second. And finally, Bella broke the silence. So, I see the old hag is still not dead. That is absolutely no way to speak to your grandmother, Bella. Last time I checked, she was my grandmother. You don't get to tell me how to treat my own family. It's not about how you treat your own family. It's about how you treat another human being. Honestly, why did you even call me here? If you call me here to moral police me, I'm going to leave. No, wait. Nana had something to say to you. Hi, Bella. What do you want? These past 2 years have by far been the best 2 years for me ever since your grandfather passed away. And it was all thanks to Chloe. Are you trying to shame me? No, I'm not. I want to take something away from you. Here is a copy of my new will. What? I want you to know that I'm beyond disgusted with everyone in the family. The only person who showed me any real kindness was someone who wasn't even blood related to me. You're giving a stranger all of your assets? Bella, do you know how much Chloe has struggled? She wasn't in the slightest way as fancifully stable as you, yet she still took me in. She was nothing but kind to me. She tried to intervene for you and tried to convince me to give you at least something, but I want nothing to do with you. How can you do this? We share the same blood. Yet you never treated me that way. To you, I'm just some crone and hag, so I will treat you like the leech you are. But I needed this money. I blew through all my savings because I trusted that you'd give me assets. You are beyond entitled to think that you could treat me like I was trash and still expect me to give you my assets. Chloe, I know you did this. You brainwashed my grandmother. I always knew you were jealous of how my grandparents were still alive, but to go this low is disgusting. No. You leaving your grandmother at my doorstep because you were tired of her is what is disgusting. Even now, you're not the least bit remorseful about what you did. You stole what was mine, you thief. I will take you to court." "Oh, you can try, but I've outlined it pretty well that I have willfully given all my assets to Chloe. It's specific and detailed. Nothing you try will get you my assets. Now, I want you to get out of our lives for good." Bella obviously tried to create more of a scene, but neither Nana nor I paid any attention. Eventually, she yelled at us even more before leaving. I was prepared to call the police to escort her away, but I was glad that she voluntarily left. I made sure Nana was doing okay, and she assured me that she was. After that, Bella told everyone in her family about what had happened. I got a lot of calls from Nana's side of the family calling me a thief for taking what was theirs. I didn't tell Nana much about it, but I have a feeling she knew. It was honestly disheartening to see all her family only care about what they could get from her after she was gone. They didn't even try to make up for their crappy behavior. I expected them to at least flock to my door and beg Nana to let them take care of her. I was grateful that didn't happen, but still, it was kind of crazy. I ignored all the calls and texts from unknown numbers who were obviously Nana's relatives. I instead spent all the time I could with Nana. Nana's health began to slowly get worse from what it actually was. About 2 months after our whole conversation with Bella, Nana had to get admitted to the hospital. She spent about 3 weeks there before she finally passed away. Even during her last days, no one came to visit her. I tried to reach out to them, but I got no replies. I guess they were so mad at Nana for not giving them inheritances that they decided to just not be there for her. I was heartbroken. I had gotten used to our little routines, and most importantly, I got used to finally having someone to listen to me. There were not many people there at Nana's funeral, and I guess that only made my grief worse. She was a wonderful person and deserved so many more loving people in her life. I'm just glad that I got to be there with her in her last hours, and that I was able to make her laugh even when she was struggling to stay alive. As soon as I received Nana's inheritance, the first thing I did was to go off the grid and move to a different state. I knew that Nana's relatives would try their hardest to come after me for the money, and I wanted to have zero contact with me. I've been using my inheritance to make donations to old age homes and charitable organizations that deal with elder abandonment. It feels like the only right way to honor Nana's life. It's been a few months since Nana passed away, and I'm still processing all the grief. But every day is beginning to get a little better.